2023. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pico,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Resnick,
Present.
Councilmember Behrman,
Present.
Councilmember Gotcha,
Here.
Councilmember Brennan Fox, here, Councilmember Sharp,
Present.
Councilmember Smiley.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Very good, thank you. Changes or additions to the agenda tonight as presented. Assistant City Manager Benson.
Your Honor, I have no changes or additions.
Anything up here at the dais? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the first item of order tonight, and that's a presentation, and that's the reaffirmation of oath of office for Captain Jason Brettmeyer, Lieutenant Michael Smith, and Lieutenant David Stewart. Chief Geisler.
Thank you, sir. Council. Tonight I have three very important gentlemen to me up here to reaffirm their oath of office. We're going to start off with Captain Jason Brettmeyer. Jason is here tonight joined by his wife Tracy and his daughters Sarah, Caitlin, and Audrey, and also his parents Tim and Lisa and his brother Eric. Jason joined the fire department in 2006 as a paid-on-call firefighter. In 2013, he was promoted to the rank of lieutenant. During that time, he obtained his Firefighter 1 and 2 certification, Basic EMT, Fire Officer 1 and 2, Fire Inspector 1. Jason continued his career with Wixom as a part-time fire inspector in the Fire Prevention Office. And then in June of 2017, he was promoted to full-time fire inspector, where he continued to expand his expertise by becoming NFPA Certified Plans Examiner. Jason is a leader on and off the fire ground, and I am proud to have him as Wixom's Fire Marshal and Captain. Congratulations, Jason.
Thank you. All right. Raise your right hand. I, Jason Brettmeyer, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Michigan, and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Wixom, Oakland County, Michigan, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties or the responsibilities of captain according to the best of my ability. Congratulations. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to call up Michael Smith and David Stewart. Mike is joined here tonight with his wife Karen. His three sons, Sean, Jake, and Kyle, are unable to be here. Mike joined the fire department in 2007 as a paid-on-call firefighter. In 2013, he was promoted to the rank of senior firefighter. During that time, he obtained his Fire 1 and 2 certification, Basic EMT, Fire Officer 1 and 2, and Fire Instructor. Mike has found a passion in vehicle extrication and now teaches extrication around the United States, with an emphasis on current and emerging vehicle technologies. He blends his automotive engineering background with his fire service experience to provide leading-edge content for fire service personnel everywhere. Mike is an ambassador of Wixom to the country and in the field of extrication, and I am proud to announce him to you as Lieutenant Mike Smith. Dave Stewart. Dave is joined here tonight with his wife Sam and his son Parker. Dave joined the fire department in 2008 as a paid-on-call firefighter. Since that time, Dave has obtained his Fire 1 and 2 certification, Basic EMT, and EMS Instructor certification. In January of 2016, he began working part-time for the fire department as an EMS coordinator. And in June of 2017, he was promoted to full-time fire and EMS Instructor coordinator. Dave continues to be a leader within the organization, and I'm proud to announce him to you tonight as Lieutenant David Stewart.
Raise your right hand.
I, Michael Smith,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Michigan, and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Wixom, Oakland County, Michigan, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties and responsibilities of lieutenant according to the best of my ability.
I will.
I believe we're going to take a brief intermission for cake. So,
Take a 10-minute, well, this is a brief 10-minute break for cake, celebrate with our newly sworn in officers. Deletions? Seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting of April 25th, 2023. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries. We have one item of correspondence tonight. That's a notice of hearing for the customers of DTE Electric Company, case number U-21051. Brings us to the first call to the public. The rules to the call to the public are as follows. The public shall address the council during the call to the public, which shall be included on the agenda immediately after correspondence and again immediately after new business. The first call to the public immediately after correspondence shall be limited to agenda items only. A person shall not address the council in excess of 5 minutes unless the time is extended by a majority vote of the council present. Persons wishing to address the council shall identify themselves and their place of residence and shall state their reason for addressing the council. And all comments by the public shall be made directly to the council. Do we have anybody for the first call to the public? Seeing none, I'll close first call to the public and move on to city managers' reports. We'll do the police monthly report first. Any questions for Chief Langmeyer? Councilmember Garland Fox?
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. A question about the hazardous condition. I see that it went from 2 a year ago to 10. What does that cover?
The hazardous, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part.
Fire.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're going to do the police first.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself.
It's okay. Anybody questions for the chief? All right, we'll go to fire monthly report. Councilmember Glenn Fox.
Hi, thank you. So casual all of a sudden.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hazardous condition. What would that cover?
That would be the wires down
Oh, okay.
and trees down, things like that,
That
of
was
that nature.
a big increase.
Yep, that was the last storm we had, that heavy wind,
That's all I had. Thank you.
snow.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Very good. Moving on to the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless the council member so requests, in which event the items will be removed from the consent agenda and added to the regular agenda at the end of unfinished or new business. Do I have a motion? So moved.
Support.
I got a motion and support to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. We have no unfinished business tonight, so that moves us on to new business number 1. That's a recommendation to authorize the purchase and installation of a replacement host server for City Hall from Dell Corporation through BPI Information Systems of Southfield, Michigan at a cost of $13,947.30 from City Network account number 411-283-971.322. Do I have a motion? So moved.
Support.
Very good. Assistant City Manager Benson.
Thank you, Mayor. I could do a light introduction, and we've also got Zach Palmer from BPI here to kind of walk through the nuts and bolts. Long story short, this is a request to replace a server that has come to the end of its life that we currently already have. In terms of technical details, I'll leave that to Zach to further elaborate.
Yeah, to go through it pretty quickly, it's kind of like your central nervous system, so it's going to push information, data, everything throughout the entire network that runs through the city. That's what's good, pushing it out to workstations, cloud, wherever we need it to go. It is out of date. I believe there was a proposal about a year ago. I was not here at BPI at the time, so I'm not sure if it did make it out, but the reason we're bringing it back up is it is out of date, and we want to get it replaced going into what we're going to do with the network redesign and infrastructure.
Do you have any questions? Deputy Mayor Resnick?
Thank you, Mayor. Zach, one question on the backup. Do we have off-site backup then for the databases and all that are going to be on this host?
I will double check that, but I believe we do have off-site backup through the cloud. Let me double check and I will get back to you. I'll get that information.
All right.
Should be able to search that pretty quick. Just want to confirm. I'm pretty sure. I just want to confirm.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Any questions? Seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to authorize the purchase and installation of a replacement host server for City Hall from Dell Corporation
through BPI Information Systems of Southfield, Michigan at a cost of $13,947.30 from City Network account number 411-283-971.322. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
New business number 2 is a recommendation to award a change order for the 2023 road maintenance program for Potter Road maintenance to Cadillac Asphalt of Wixom, Michigan in the amount of $43,005.50 and approve the associated budget amendment. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Sigma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So after we bid out Maple Road, we started looking at Potter Road and found that it was unraveling quicker than we had hoped during the winter months. So we are planning to do a little maintenance on it. And what that maintenance will include is small patches, approximately 8 feet wide, going down the areas that are unraveling. It's usually shaded areas where the freeze and thaw kind of deteriorates the asphalt a little quicker. And so we asked Cadillac to give us a bid. We estimated that there was about 12,000 yards of asphalt that needed to be put down there, and they agreed to that installation. So what they'll do in a few weeks, if you so choose, would be to mill portions of the areas that are damaged and fill them in with asphalt. We estimate that it will be it'll prolong the life of the road at least until we have it budgeted in 2027. So we're it'll bring it back up a little bit in the PASER ratings for a time.
This is approved tonight. When will they start?
They are working in the area, as you know, with Maple Road, and they're running asphalt. My thought is that once they move to the north side of Maple Road, they'll have the milling machine back, and that's when they do it. So within the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Both our east-west roads will be
better.
worked on. Yeah, they'll be better, but at the
It's-
same time, they're
we're
going to be
not-
worked on, so it's going to be a big inconvenience, so.
This kind of maintenance would only take a few hours at a time to mill those portions. So they'll have traffic control there for those times, and yeah, it'll all be done within a week after that. So it'll be momentary.
A minor inconvenience.
It will be a minor inconvenience on Potter. Maple, on the other hand, we're doing quite a extensive work, and yeah, that'll be end of June.
Very good. Councilmember Gacho?
Thank you. Since we're going 2 inches down, it shouldn't require permanent lane closures like Maple, right? They'll mill and we can still drive.
They'll mill, sweep, and that'll open the road back up. There'll be a bump there for the few days that it takes to get their, the roller over there and whatnot, but yes.
Are we comfortable, with this, because there's sections that are really bad where I imagine they're gonna take out quite a bit of the road to do this. But I've noticed with like Oakland County, they'll do striping kind of down, they do it mostly down the shoulder where things start to crumble, and they'll tear that out and then put down new asphalt. We have a few areas where it's a line of potholes kind of in the middle of a lane. We're planning to do that kind of work too, or are we just going to leave that and worry about the larger areas?
We're worried about the larger areas. The milling machine, I believe that they're taking over will be an 8-foot width. So we'll do like 100 feet of 8 foot and then drive down and get the next spot. So we're trying to get the worst of the worst there on Potter, just to keep it drivable for the winter months.
Okay. I think, and thank you for doing this. I know we talked a bit about it, but I think maybe just as council, my worry is with those patches, like I mentioned, we have some areas where it's just old pothole that was filled, old pothole that was filled, and so we might have to take care of those as well after next winter or something. So, thank you.
Councilmember Smiley?
Thank you, Mayor Beagle. Hello, Mr. Sickman. Councilman Gottschall covered some of what I was wanted to ask about, but the main thing was, so we talk about, until scheduled for complete repair. You mentioned 2027. Is that till then that this was scheduled to be
Yes.
given the full treatment?
Yes.
Will what we're doing, assuming it's approved, get us through till then, or do you?
We're estimating that it'll get us through, and if we can, we'd like to extend it, but I'm not hopeful of that. I think it's a patch, and there's the Maple Road was $1.5 million, and this is $43,000. So I mean, it's a patch at best.
No, I understand, and if anything needed a patch, it's Potter. And
yes.
I'm very glad that we're going to do something. It's popped up quite a bit in the last, month or so at the different types of meetings we've been having. And I've heard a little buzz from my neighbors and things like, hey, have you seen Potter Road? I'm like, oh yeah, we've been talking about it. But I didn't realize 2027 was originally where we had planned. So I'm really glad we've got something much sooner to help clean it up. Yep. There was something else. I'll bug you later if I remember it. Sorry.
No worries.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Councilmember Sharp?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Sickman, first of all, your team did a great job filling the potholes that were there on Potter Road. It's not dangerous anymore to your car. It's, feels like a pothole-filled road now, but it's still a road.
Right.
I support doing this. One thing we do have to be careful on is the logistics with Maple, and make sure we got, if you need to bring in extra people to make sure it happens, overtime, whatever it takes. I don't know if anybody was out driving around Wixom at about 5 o'clock today, but their train must have been there for an hour because traffic was backed up everywhere. And then you can't go west on Maple, so people are going north on back, trying to turn west on Maple to get around the train, and they can't, and they're back going straight, and everybody's in and out. So if we got Potter shut down too, or slowed down, so it was awful today. So we got to figure out how to pave it when the trains don't stop. Can you do that?
That's we'll work.
I'm kidding.
We've talked to Lake State, but I'm not sure they'll help us that much.
My point was mainly you guys did a good job of temporarily filling Potter to make it manageable until we can get the patch it. But I support this project.
So,
thank you.
On that note, just I guess for information, we use hot patch in the summertime for those repairs, and they stick to the asphalt. When we have the winter months, the asphalt doesn't stick. It's a cold patch at best, and every time it rains, it pops back out. So once we get the hot patch in those, they'll stay there, for a considerable amount of time. So that does help. But thank you for the comments.
Anybody else? Deputy Mayor Resnick?
Just a comment. I know that we talked extensively at budget session about this because when we looked at the capital plan for major roads, it showed a 2027, and I thank you for finding a way to get those patches. I think it's around 2610 address. that shaded area between Flamingo and Andover.
Yes.
That's the one that is really bad, and if people who ride their bikes on the road know, that's a jawbreaker. So I thank you for moving it up, and then because we know that if we kick the can down the road another year, it's not even be drivable anymore. So thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? All right, seeing that, I've got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to award a change order for the 2023 road maintenance program for Potter Road maintenance to Cadillac Asphalt Incorporated of Wixom, Michigan in the amount of $43,005.50 and approve the associated budget amendment. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Thanks, Tim. When you're back up again, we have a recommendation to award, a recommendation to authorize participation in a Sourcewell contract number 092222-GNR and purchase a 200 kW natural gas generator from Wolverine Power Systems of Wixom, Michigan for $121,235 with funding through the other facility improvement accounts number 411-283-974.322. Do I have a motion? Deputy Mayor, Director Sigmund.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, over the past few years, we've identified some aging issues with the generator that supports the police department. And with that generator, it only does the police department and the 911 area. So what we're working on now is purchasing a new generator, a natural gas generator that would support the entire building during any time of the year. So there's a significant increase to the capacity of the generator that we're going to be installing there. There'll be some issues coming up with installation that we'll work through later, but with the extended time that it takes to get this generator on site, we'd like to move to purchase that now and work on the installation pieces as they come along. And this is a Sourcewell contract through the state of Michigan, so we are members of Sourcewell, and we've utilized them in the past for other projects, and that is consistent with what we were looking for. So Wolverine Power is a Wixom business that we thought we should, and they've been servicing our maintenance of the generators for several years, and we want to support them in this purchase.
So we won't be pulling the generator down and parking it on the pathway anymore, correct?
Nope, that's correct.
Very good. Councilmember Gacho.
Thank you. That was partly my question. Is this going to go where the current generator is, or will it require a new pad?
It will require a new pad, but it will go where the current stationary generator for the police department is.
Okay, so new pad, not a new location. Because I remember a number of years ago, there was that idea of turning basically all of that into a concrete pad.
Nope.
I wouldn't want to see that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Smiley.
Thank you, Mayor. Just since it's going to be a year before we can expect this generator, just due to no fault of anybody, just the supply chain issues we're all running into. Are we pretty comfortable that we'll get through with? We'll get one more year out of the very old generators we currently have, and do we have a backup plan if something were some sort of failure with one of those? Because obviously they'll fail. If they ever fail, it'll be when we need them the most. Do we have a plan in case something like that happens?
Yeah, so we do have portable generators of that size that are capable. The one that we hook up here on for the city hall side, it does take some time to get them here and to hook them up, so it's not an automatic generator transfer. But we do have those capabilities. If the diesel one with the police station fails, we can utilize that same generator for that. In fact, a few years back, we did have to connect one of the portables so that we could get the other one fixed in time. And there was some juggling with that, but it is a doable thing. Yeah.
Well, just for clarity, there's two. If power's out, there's two generators that need to run this building, right?
That's correct. Right now. Yeah.
Right now, right.
Yeah.
This one will make that not necessary.
Correct.
But if either one is down or fails, we've got other portable ones.
Correct.
Okay, I got you.
Yes.
And those are just quick fix, not for any kind of long term.
We maintain those portable generators at
commercial or the
DPW.
residential type generators, or
so
are they?
No, they're industrial size 150 kW
Oh, okay.
generators.
They're not like the one I have in my
We have them as well.
We have those too, okay.
But, yes,
So we definitely have backup plans.
We do.
Good, good, good. That's all I needed, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to authorize participation in the Sourcewell contract number 092222-GNR and purchase a 200 kW natural gas generator from Wolverine Power Systems of Wixom, Michigan for $121,235 with funding through the other facility improvement accounts number 411-283-974.322. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Very good. Thanks, Tim. New business number 4 is a recommendation to adopt the resolution to revise the City of Wixom planning and zoning fee schedule effective May 10th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support?
Assistant City Manager Benson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. This is I'd say a somewhat routine item in that the city from time to time should review our fee schedules for various services that the city provides. In this particular case, we wanted to take a closer look at our planning and zoning fee schedule, specifically related to not only the RRC requirement that we demonstrate that we review this on a somewhat regular basis, but also to accommodate the slight changes in unit factors that our new consultant, Carlisle Wharton Associate, uses as part of their fee schedule in their billings to the city. So it made sense to convert our unit factors as opposed to per unit when doing certain types of development reviews and doing them on a per acre basis. The other things that we kind of focused on in our review and in this provided revised fee schedule is just kind of reaffirming the overarching goal of having 25 to 30% in that range of those fees that we collect for providing those services be collected by the city to cover our costs to provide the service. As you all know, we use consultants to provide the majority of the review work, but there is a large amount of kind of overarching infrastructure needed. As an example, we provide the space to have meetings and to do reviews and having the IT infrastructure, staff time, myself, Karen, others, those pieces kind of roll into that 25%. We also added a couple things that weren't previously addressed on our old fee schedule, such as standalone waiver requests, which are similar to variances, but in our ordinance are approvable by the Planning Commission in specific zoning districts. We did not have a specific fee if you had an approved site plan and then needed a waiver or signage or something later on. So wanted to address that within the fee schedule, and then also just adding in some of the other fees or specific services that Carlisle Wharton has as a part of our agreement that weren't currently addressed. So in the chance that we needed a private road review or a wetland review, we now have appropriate fees in place to perform those reviews. In general, we did not look at this fee schedule revision in the light of trying to increase or specifically decrease the fees that we're charging. The intent is for this really to be a revenue neutral change. Really just to make sure that we're collecting the appropriate amounts, and also having the escrow portion of our review fees be more clear. That we, I guess as a bit of an FYI or reminder, we do utilize escrow funds for most applications for reviews, and that escrow is only used to cover expenses that go above and beyond the kind of base reviews that are part of let's say it's a site plan review and there are multiple layers of traffic study reviews done. That's not necessarily incorporated in the base site plan review because that would be unique to a specific project. So those escrow funds are to accommodate unique situations, and then all unused portions are refunded to the applicants. With that in mind, I'm happy to answer any questions you all may have on this topic.
Councilmember Granlund Fox.
Thank you. When our fee schedules are being reviewed, do we look at other communities to see what their fee schedules look like and kind of compare?
In a case like this, we did not, and the primary reason for that is We could compare, try to compare apples to apples in terms of, what does one community charge for variance versus another, but it wouldn't really be apples to apples because who do they use or what is their methodology for performing those reviews and what are their kind of, what is the structure they have around it? As an example, there may be communities that charge $100 for a variance, but it's because they have a full-time building official who doesn't do a written review, as an example. And that's difficult to do when you're kind of comparing them like that. When we look at the building permit and those kind of permit schedules, we do compare to other communities because what they're looking at and what's being produced is, I'll say, relatively consistent. A new fan is a new fan no matter where you go, and the inspections for doing that are very similar. So for planning and zoning, it's more difficult because we as the community kind of determine what are the ordinances and what are the things that we're looking at. Does that make sense?
And how often do we review those fee schedules?
This, to my...
Planning, fees, building, any of the fees.
So in this particular case, I believe the last time the planning and zoning fee schedule was updated was 2013. I believe that was when we adopted, that was CIP's last long-term contract. So I would say to a degree some of this was overdue because there are things that aren't specifically consultant driven that we could have looked at a little bit more closely. So this has kind of been to do anyways. For building that, again, that in our particular case, that's really tied to the contract that we have for providing the service, but that is looked at as part of kind of the discussions. I can't tell you that we do the deepest dive of saying, all right, is our building permit multiplier the same as the different communities? In that case, it's really kind of a discussion with our vendor of saying, are we collecting an appropriate amount that works for you, but also works for us? As we do look at the overarching costs of providing the building department, saying, are we collecting enough? That's a little bit more consistent of a revenue stream. I would also say planning and zoning is very variable. It depends on what's happening, so it's harder to rely on that for year-over-year operating like you would for building department.
I support the motion. I would just, I'm hoping that when we review fees in the future, including these, that we try to stay consistent with other communities so we're not way out of whack. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilmember Berman?
Thank you. Actually, Councilmember Brennan Fox covered my first question. My first question is whether or not we did a comparison. But I did have a follow-up question. So you talked about the variance, and I looked at that in particular. So like, I know my neighbor had an issue where they were doing a patio, and the patio was too close to the property line, so they had to come in and get a variance because their piece of property is like a pie shape or something. So they'd have to, that's $1,000 fee they'd have to pay to get a variance. Well, they'd have to pay $1,000 and potentially get $500 of it back.
Yes.
And what are we currently charging? Because I don't believe that, I mean, it seems like that's gone up considerably.
That is one that has increased in comparison to other things. Currently, we charge for a residential variance, it's $200 or $230 plus $500 in escrow. So $230, you get the $500 back, and for commercial, it's $650 plus $1,500 in escrow. Often because commercial variances can be much more complicated, like the billboard cases.
See, and being on ZBA for years and seeing that all these variances that came, I mean, 90% of them is a corner lot and they want to build their deck. And I mean, and because it's a corner lot, the setback doesn't work. I feel like that's way too high for a residential variance. And we're charging $2 something now, you're looking to go to $500. I just don't think that's fair for our residents.
The primary problem with specifically residential variances is that our fee schedule with Carlisle Workman is the same price for all variances.
That sounds like an us problem, and I don't think that should be our residents' problem.
No, that's a fair point. I mean, that's a conversation we can have. If this were to be tabled as an example, we could go back and try to see if we can get a different number agreed to that with our consultants and provided the review.
I mean, we're looking at a deck and now that's just a lot of money to be putting on our residents. And if you're saying it's going up almost 50%, I'm not comfortable approving this just upon that. And I'd probably like to see in comparison what the percentages, the changes are down this entire line. I mean, for a big development, so be it, if that's what makes sense, but for a simple patio or deck review or something like that, this is just too much money to be charging our residents.
Well, those permits wouldn't be a part of a simple, those are all building permits or zoning permits, which those are handled through, it's a different fee schedule. There is no specific planning and zoning charge for
But like,
doing those.
for example, I mean, 90% of the things that come for ZBA are variances because the lot is a pie shape or the lot doesn't go back as like all the other neighbors' lots go back, so they can't build a deck without the variance, or it's a corner lot. And to be adding that kind of fee, just doubling it, just seems too much to me.
Councilmember Gacho?
Thank you. I didn't initially have anything, but listening to others. So looking through this and continuing on that conversation, we're seeing that the commercial variance request will go down $150 and residential will go up 300 it was? Or 270? 270. Okay. What percentage of variance filings are commercial versus residential, would you say?
Oh,
Probably,
You can even say
70-30, 70% or 60% residential, 40% commercial. Commercial is usually signs.
Okay.
We do get a fair amount of those.
So I'd be in favor of keeping commercial where it is to try and offset some of the costs on the residential. I don't feel like we should be having residents pay substantially more than they are to have businesses pay less. That seems like an odd thing. Even I understand the fee schedule, they just call it variance request and they charge what they charge, but to me it's a little bit odd. The other thing on here was conceptual review with planning commission. First meeting free, 500 after. I feel like in the past handful of years, we've had a lot of conceptual review meetings that led to absolutely nothing. Can we adjust that so you pay from the first meeting on?
So that is, and I'm very glad that you brought that up. I meant to highlight that addition as well. The goal here is to address the repeats, right? The people who come in 3-4 times or try to without having a fully formed plan. So this would disincentivize that. Personally, I do find that to be a really useful tool and something that I would recommend that we continue to offer for free on the first basis, with the understanding that we're communicating to them, you really get one free shot at this. So it also kind of gets them to have a good plan before they burn that one opportunity. But it is a very useful tool. I think we found that in a lot of cases where being able to kind of talk it through can save the applicant money of, hey, this isn't going to go anywhere anyways. Or, you know, we can better kind of communicate what the expectations for a particular development are.
I do agree conceptual reviews can be helpful and they've been abused in the past by a few people. But I'm like, still to my mind, maybe it's not 500 for the first meeting, maybe it's 200 or something, but at least free to me incentivizes time wasting, which I feel like a lot of the developers have been doing with us lately, especially since we haven't been making them pay for anything. They come in and, hey, we changed one thing, and then they waste planning commission's time, and it's gone on for years. So I'm glad it's in here, but I'd almost prefer to see a smaller charge up. It doesn't need to be, like I said, the 500, but something that, look, you're using up our time, because I'm sure planning commission members and staff would love to go do other stuff with their free time than sit here and listen to someone talk about their ideas, so.
Deputy Mayor Resnick?
Thank you, Mayor. I actually support the first meeting free for conceptual reviews because I can remember a couple times where there were conceptual plans that were brought before the Planning Commission, for whatever reason, was dead set against it. So at least that particular development, they didn't go through with it, right? Because they knew they were not going to get enough support within Planning Commission for it to go forward. So I don't think that's unreasonable. And if we're going to be a redevelopment-ready community, we do want to be friendly to those businesses if someone comes in with a plan. I agree that you don't want to come in second, third, fourth times for free, and we should be charging, and we are charging $500 a meeting thereafter. I think I tend to agree with Councilman Gottschall and Behrman on the raising of the residential fee for the variances. I think that does seem a bit unfair. Now, at first it didn't really grab me, but listening to the discussion up here on the dais, I think it is unreasonable for a resident to be paying that much, $1,000. I know they get $500 back, but it may be something that's just because of the geography of their lot, or it's adjacent to something that the variance is required for. So I would support keeping that at the current fee structure that it is now.
The one thing I have two thoughts that as you all continue your deliberation on the residential variances. One would be, I think a clean way to handle this would be, amending this kind of resolution to be $350 plus the $500 escrow, which in 9 times out of 10 the residential escrows are refunded, but it's not 10 times out of 10. So I do think there's a value in having that buffer. It's harder to collect after. It's easier to have the money up front and not need it than to try to go collect it later. But if you went to that $350 number, that would cover, all of the costs that we spend as a consultant with no percentage for the city on top. So at least that's a relatively clean way to do it. Or if the preference is, I can certainly go have a conversation with Carlisle Workman and Associates and see if we can amend our kind of contract and fee schedule with them to break out residential variance reviews and see where we get with that.
Councilmember Smiley?
I found this all, this very interesting, this increase on these variances, and using the deck as an example. But when I read this, my understanding was that this is what it costs us. We're not making a big lot of money on these things. So while I don't like that the cost has gone up so much, I don't want it subsidized by other people. So you just said we could get it down to from 500 to 350. How did you do that?
That's what we're charged for the review. Carlisle Workman Associates charges us $350 to do that review.
Okay.
So then we add 25% on top of that, which gets you to 500.
Because we do some things here too. Yeah, I got
Yeah.
you. Okay. So we could come down that far, and it's kind of a wash, but we lose a little in the efforts that we put into it. All right. So if we could do something like that, that would be, for the residential type elements to this, I would feel better about that too. So.
And we can also do both, right? If it's approved tonight at the 350 level, we can talk to Carlisle Workman and ask about whether we can cut that down.
Yeah, Drew mentioned using
to
something
that
that
makes
too. That'd be great if they could
sense.
kind of, help in that regard as well. But
The
it's
other
already 260, you said, using this example?
230.
230, okay. So it's a little over $100 increase. People are getting used to things going up, but wherever we can not make it go up, that would be great. And then, it doesn't be right now, we can finish discussing it, but do we need to table this in the end, or?
I would say it depends on what you'd like to do. Whether, if the decision is you want to amend it to a specific number, you could have a motion to do that and then approve the revised resolution. Or you could, if you wanted us to go back and do more research and kind of get more information, you could table it.
Well, it sounds like you need to talk to Carlisle Workman. And, maybe there's others in here you know, Councilman Behrman just pulled out that one as an example. You know, are there a few others in there that fall into this same kind of feeling of we're not helping out the residents as much as we maybe we could. So I don't want to
Probably
lose
the
anything,
primary
just
thing.
let the discussion flush itself out all the way. But it sounds like we need to send this back a little bit. That's all.
Councilmember Behrman?
I was just going to say, regarding the conceptual review, I'm personally not a fan of it. I remember going to the conceptual review meetings for the Maple Road development, where Planning Commission was all in favor of doing a high-density development the first meeting. And then, you know, saying, oh, that looked good, that looked good. But then when we actually got the plan and the residents actually came out, it got voted down. And I think that sometimes these conceptual review meetings are going to line the city up for a lawsuit one of these days, when you're telling developer it looks good, but then when they actually get the actual plan and the residents actually come out and speak, because there's no notice for these conceptual review meetings, so the residents don't get notice that there's a proposed development going in. So I would be perfectly fine with that having a fee right from the beginning, because I don't necessarily see that we should be having these meetings and giving our insight on what we think on the development when it hasn't been noticed to the residents. So that particular fee, I'm fine with the recommendation for there to be a fee there. And as for the variance request, I really think that I'd be fine going down to $250 at that, going up just a little bit. But frankly speaking, we're talking about maybe 6 variances a year that come through for residents. I mean, and most of the time they're, from my recollection, are people who maybe they start putting a fence in and the fence was going in too close to the front of the yard or something along those lines. So then they get a stop work order. Like, for example, when some of the fences went in the village center area, because the corner lots that got fences, they all had to come for variances. Because that corner lot fence is too close to the property line. A lot of those people, the corner lots, when they're doing decks, they end up having to come in for a variance because the deck is too close to the property line. The lady in my neighborhood, she had like a pie-shaped piece of property, so her backyard was smaller, so she was putting in a nice brick patio with her pergola, but the pergola was too close to the property line because it was a pie shape, so she had to do a variance. And it's just, it's too much money, I think, to even be going to, I mean, because they got to pay you're saying maybe 300 plus 500. I'd rather just, if it's going to cost us an extra $500 a year to not take our residents to the cleaners, I'd be fine subsidizing that and just keeping that at $250 or $230 it is now. And I'm fine doing an amendment for that this evening, and I'm fine tabling it if that's what Assistant City Manager would like.
Councilmember Graham Fox.
So I appreciate all the discussion. There were things that came out that I didn't realize, and in the future, maybe we can have something that shows what the costs are now and what the proposed that they're going to, just so we can kind of have that comparison. I think that would be helpful. Just hearing the kind of, what was it there? Oh, I apologize. I'd make a motion to table so we could get more information.
Support.
That's right.
Was that a motion?
It was a motion, yes.
You got to take a vote right now.
I got a motion to support the table. This motion, any questions before we take a vote? Councilmember Gatchel.
Just clarifying the motion, you said more information. Can we include that Assistant City Manager will speak with Carlisle Workman and try to negotiate along with them?
Yes, I accept that amendment. And I would also say, I do support Councilman Bierman's, Councilmember Bierman's comment about, because we have so few of those variances per year, I hate to gouge the resident when there's not many of them anyway. I don't know how that'll play out, but.
Anyone else? All right, I got a motion and a second to table new business number 4, the recommendation to adopt a resolution to revise the City of Wixom planning and zoning fee schedule effective May 10th, 2023. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. We table new business number 4. Moving on to new business number 5 is a recommendation to adopt the proposed public participation plan for the City of Wixom dated May 2023. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Support. Assistant City Manager Benson.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is another redevelopment-ready communities topic that has been on our to-do list. Finally got a draft together for your consideration. A public participation plan is, I'd say, a relatively standard document in the RRC kind of toolkit. And the intention is really to help guide public participation in communities that adopt them in terms of what are your goals, what are your avenues for collecting or eliciting public participation, who are the key stakeholders and kind of players who should be considered or have a voice potentially at those tables. Specifically, these public participation plans tend to focus on community development related projects. That can be city initiated kind of park development, or that can be even as simple as how you handle special land use public hearings, and kind of everywhere in between. So there's a lot of information in this document. It's, I would say, a relatively similar format to what other communities use, and then kind of adapted for our own purposes. The hope kind of going forward is we have had various portions of the city look and kind of give some thought and feedback on this, and we would use this, specifically this version, to try to be a little bit more intentional about looking back and saying, okay, what are the methods that we're collecting public participation through? We already do a lot of these things, whether they be public hearings, town halls, surveys, even focus groups. I mean, we've done that before. But so this document really just kind of tries to bring that all together and show that we have a plan in place. This would also be a pretty big box to check for the in our pursuit of redevelopment ready community certification. We would also report on this annually alongside our economic development and marketing strategy, probably at the same time of year as the Planning Commission annual report as well. So you all would have the opportunity to kind of see all of everything that's been done in a given year and have feedback on that. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to ask or answer.
Councilmember Gatchel.
Thank you. I just noticed on page 13 for basic announcement methods for public meetings, in the bullet points, there wasn't an inclusion of our city electronic billboard. I was just wondering if that should maybe be added.
Well, yeah, that's something we should put in there, certainly.
Anybody else? Councilmember Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a comment. I was pleased to see the way that we, it was on page 7, we notify the public about public meetings, and you did comment the meeting agendas and packets of the City Council are online. Thank you. Good to see.
Anybody else? All right, seeing none, I've got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to adopt the proposed public participation plan for the City of Wixom dated May 2023. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And that concludes the new business portion of the meeting tonight. Moves us to the second call to the public. I won't read the rules to the call to the public, except for now you can speak whatever's on your mind. Is anybody here for the second call to the public? Seeing none, I'll close that. Move on to City Manager's comments. City Manager Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. As you know, we were trying to come up with a public participation, if you will, on naming our what we had been referring to as the Civic Center loop around City Hall, which is the added pathway that we had developed around City Hall, the library, police department, community center. And we did put that out to the public. We had quite a few responses. And we started at the Civic Center loop to begin with. We had many submissions that had loop in the name. But we ended up kind of settling internally on going simple and going to the name The Loop. And because of that, we didn't have anybody that submitted that as the suggestion. And we had 14 suggestions that did include the word loop. So the giveaway item is not going to be given away on that one, if you will. But we're going to go with Loop as the name, keep it simple for identification purposes for folks. We'll be looking to do wayfinding signs off of the existing trail at Center Boulevard, as well as on Pontiac Trail where the actual pathway starts. And one of the things we're thinking about in terms of that is, as opposed to just signage, is potentially an arch over the entrances to Pontiac Trail is something that would be different. And we've mentioned a little bit of sign fatigue being a concern. So that's something that we're looking at, but we'll come forward with that later on and inform you about what we're looking to do there. But we decided to go with the simple on the name and just stay with what we started with, but simplify it to the loop. And that's all I had, other than the items that were on the dates to remember. If there's any questions on anything, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Very good. Assistant City Manager Benson, do you have anything to add tonight?
I do. The only thing I'll add is City Manager Brown, myself, and Deputy Mayor Resnick had the opportunity to participate in Oakland County's Economic Outlook event yesterday. It was held at Oakland University, and I just wanted to highlight, kind of the wealth of information that event provides in terms of the reports of the outlook for our region, and they spent a lot of time talking about the Oakland 80 initiative, which is an effort to have 80% of Oakland County residents receive some form of post-secondary education, whether that be an associate's, a bachelor's, a certificate in any given kind of realm. The county is currently at 69% overall. Our region, which includes Wixom, parts of Commerce, and Novi, are above the average in terms of our regional peers. But a wealth of information is something that if you have any time or interest in those things, I'd recommend taking a look at, or I'd be happy to share that information out. But very, very interesting things and positive things for our region.
Council comments. Councilmember Berman.
I do not have any additional comments this evening.
Councilmember Gaccio.
Thank you. I wanted to congratulate our 3 newly promoted folks within the fire department and thank them for all their service over the years. They've really stuck it out through thick and thin over there, so it's great to see promotions within the department the last few months at multiple levels, and it was great seeing all the new faces with the firefighters here, so that was definitely a change and very welcome. I also wanted to make a comment. I know there have been talks and plans to redo the play structure next to the library, and so we probably have all been getting the emails about inclusivity and signage and communication boards and whatnot, but there's also a story on the news, one of the news stations this week or last week, about a communication board and more inclusive play structure and whatnot, and I just hope, I know our DDA chair is here, maybe we can ask those groups participating in that redoing to look into including certain aspects of that. I think it would be great. I know when Scarlett's Playground was looking for a home a number of years ago, we had been trying to get them to build over at Gunnar Metalla, and so just doing something in that realm would be helpful, I think. So, thank you.
You're welcome. Councilmember Goldman Fox.
I too would like to also again congratulate our newly promoted captain and 2 lieutenants and thank them for all of their hard work. Thank you.
Welcome. Councilmember Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. I know this came up last meeting. I was absent, but we did sign a proclamation tonight for Phil Carter, outgoing city planning commissioner, and I had the pleasure of serving with Phil for 4 years on planning commission. I assume he's been on 10 years now, 8 years, 20? 20? So I have a very short tenure with them, I guess. I have 4 years, but rarely do you find somebody as thorough and diligent and collegial, and he had the best interests of the city and its residents at his forefront of his thoughts always, and the city will miss his service. I know he's very busy at work, and he felt the time was right. I did speak to him about it, but just wanted to thank Phil publicly again for his service on the Planning Commission. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilmember Smiley.
Thank you, Mayor Began. Yes, the new, not new, the promoted, firefighters, I'll say their names real quick, Brightmeyer, Smith, and Stewart. Really great guys, very nice to meet their families tonight, and very happy that, we have such, just great people here taking care of Wixom in this regard. I like the loop. I think that's clean and simple, and I'm glad that worked out. That works well. And then the only other thing is Happy Mother's Day to everybody this weekend. Please take care of your mamas. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Resnick.
Thank you, Mayor. Also like to congratulate our 3 fire department promotions, well earned and well deserved. And nobody's ever gotten a chance to see Mike Smith rip up a car with those jaws. It's quite fascinating, and all the new technologies he's had to deal with the high voltage EVs and whatnot. So that's great. I also attended the Economic Outlook Luncheon. A lot of great information there, and that stuff will be online. I know the handouts and templates have helped to see how our county stacks up in relation to other communities throughout the nation as well, from an education and an economic standpoint. Derby Day was a great event. Thank you, DDA, Parks and Rec, DPW. It was well attended. There was over 280 runners. The weather was beautiful, so we were really blessed with that, and it was a fine time. And thank you to all the volunteers that manned stations and water stations and helped direct traffic. Pickleball. I had a chance to play on Sunday with Councilman Sharp, and other than being sore throughout, one thing that was really evident on the 4 courts that are packed in there is the barrier devices that are going to go in between the courts. Wow, would those be a muscle saver? Not have to go across 2 courts. I don't know when those are going to be installed. Maybe PCW knows? No, Parks and Rec isn't here, but it would be good to get those installed quickly. It's packed. They're constantly being used. Another thing I want to, in my continuing commentary on the evils of social media, I happened to be at a city event last week and was looking over someone going through their Facebook, and they said, "Wow, did you see all this drama about Wixom and Charms Road?" And I said, "No, what's going on?" And I don't have social media, so I didn't get a chance to ever log on and look at it, but they showed me a lot of the comments coming out of residents. And first of all, it's not the city that's removing all those trees. It is a shame to see trees go, but the city does have a tree ordinance, which you have to replace the tree for the tree remove. And that property, if I recall from back in the 80s, it all was owned by the Archdiocese of Detroit and sold to a developer. 2014, we had no fewer than 3 or 4 public meetings. One meeting, there were 67 people in the audience. That was the March 8th City Council meeting. And there was plenty of chance for residents to give their input. And a lot of the input actually changed the outcome of that development. Its initial site plan was rejected, denied. It came back. In addition to the revised site plan, there was a consent judgment for that corner property, which very, very strictly reduced the types of uses for that property. And one of them was a licensed daycare, and that's what it's going to be. So yes, it's a shame to see the trees go, but there are opportunities for residents to give their input at these zoning, planning, and city council meetings, and I encourage all residents to go there versus all the chit-chat on social media, which spreads a lot of misinformation to new residents that may not have had the opportunity to know the history of that. So if you have an interest, you can go back on the 2014 zoning, planning, and council meeting minutes and kind of take a look at what had transpired in that time. But I think that the other outcome of that was the impact on traffic will be minimal based on those restricted uses for that commercial piece in the corner. So please take a look, and please, volunteer for zoning, planning, or run for council if you've got that strong of an opinion on it. So thank you.
Thanks. Yep, and I just want to congratulate the promotions of Jason Brettmeyer, Lieutenant Mike Smith, and Lieutenant Dave Stewart to the fire department. It's great to see, again, I say this all the time, but it's great to see the smiling faces and the camaraderie come back at the fire station, and I think that's got a lot to do with the chief, and thank you. And I was going to make a comment about the social media thing tonight too, and that's my point, is you can hide behind the keyboard all you want and say the city's sold out, and the city's doing this, and the city's doing that. Well, come on in and fill out an application and get on one of our boards, and you can help out the city and move the city the way you want it to be in, and go on from there. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Good night.